Welcome to Hard Boiled, the podcast that plunges into the wild world of event planning. Get ready to uncover the secrets behind crafting unforgettable experiences. Hear some fun inside stories as we explore the heart and soul of event planning with luxury planning guru, Louis Avanti. This is gonna be a fun ride.
All right, everybody, here we are at another episode of Hard Boiled. Today, I am proud and happy to have the wonderful team from Total Entertainment. We have Marc Jason, who is the founder of Total Entertainment. You know, should have put a big feather in his cap for that one. He founded an amazing company,
Thank you.
We'll learn on this podcast. And we also have Robby, who is a creative director and speaks to a lot of clients. So he's a big cheese over there at Total Entertainment as well. And these gentlemen are, amazing in what they do. They're also my friends. And when I say my friends in the business, they're people you can count on. They're people you can have lunch with, have coffee with, talk about a little bit more than the business and talk about life in general. And, you establish relationships. I always tell people in the event industry, this is really not about, well, listen, your work has to be great. And I only hang out with people whose work is great, that can mirror my ethics and can mirror my sense of responsibility to clients. But also you want to be able to surround yourself with people that are intelligent, that have, have well nourished their intelligence or concept in the business. And these two are definitely top of the food chain. So Total Entertainment is obviously, if you figured that out by now, entertainment company. I want to say, Marc, at this point, you guys are nationwide, or you're doing a lot of work in other states as well, part of the tri-state area, right?
Right. Every month we're traveling. It started out more on the Northeast from Boston to Philly, but we were just in the West Coast twice and in the Midwest once, and Miami is becoming a second home, which we love. So that's
fantastic. Yeah, I met these guys in Miami a few years ago. We had lunch, we had drinks, we had a good time in Miami.
Right. Louis was wearing his Speedo. You look good on Louis out there. You look good.
I did. I had my Speedo. I look good in my Speedo.
He had flamingos on his Speedo. It looked fabulous.
Fabulous. Yeah. How did you remember that? That's really cool. That's
Louis,
cool.
now I don't remember it. I dreamed
flamingos on my blue Speedo. All my pink Speedo with blue flamingos.
Tan lines. I don't even want to talk about the tan lines Louis had, but
yeah. Tan lines were awesome, right?
Exactly.
So when I talk about entertainment, I always say that it's the most important thing at any party. And I know you guys do other stuff as well. Marc was just talking to me off air about, a grand opening they did for a new brand coming into New Jersey. They do a lot of different things, activations, et cetera. But, we're going to focus a little bit on entertainment so we don't get lost a little bit in the shuffle here on this podcast. So I always say that entertainment is the most important thing at your party, whether it's a mitzvah, whether it's a wedding. It's number one. When people try to save money on entertainment, obviously for me, it doesn't work, and I will not do the party. I literally will not do the party if I'm not happy with the entertainment, because I can control food, I can control photography, I can control lighting, I can control ambiance, I can control a lot of different things. I can't control what that MC DJ is going to play or do or say to a certain extent. I can't, feed them. I've had situations in the past where I had to tell DJs to change the tone, change the vibe. DJs that just look down, never look up, see what's going on. MCs that are on their phone, MCs that are totally uninvolved would be a kind statement, but totally unreceptive to what's going on in the crowd. So what are you doing there, Marc? Shuffling papers around? What are you doing? Like you're accounting?
I'm ADHD. Me sitting for 3 minutes and not talking is my ADHD.
Louis, welcome to the world of Marc. he drives around in his Sprinter with his printer between taking naps, taking conference calls, and eating turkey and apples. You got to keep up.
He's got a driver in his Sprinter van, totally luxed out, right?
Robby, get me my hot tea.
Living the life of a rapper, while doing it. You got dad news. I got cups with bride and grooms on them. Look.
I got Dad and Jilly, my daughter.
Look at that.
After this, I'm going to make my protein shake.
That's what we do.
My supplements. So tell me a little bit about, Marc, how you started this company. Tell me what was the inspiration or where you came from to grow what Total Entertainment is today. And although Total is a multi-million-dollar company, I have an idea of how much, but I won't say how much because
Sounds good. We'll jump into a bunch of things, but every idea, every business has a foundation. For me, it was the first day of college. My parents dropped me off, and internally, I always loved music, always liked to dance. and I bumped into somebody on the college campus, and everybody's saying hello and making new friends. And somebody said, I'm a DJ and I'm looking to sell my equipment. I want to buy new stuff. And literally, as my parents were driving back home, I called them on a payphones. We had payphones back then. And when they got home, I said to them, I want to buy this kid's equipment. It'll be a great idea for me to DJ the fraternity and sorority parties. So the next week, I had my whole dorm filled with DJ equipment, which was barely any room to move because equipment back then was big. And then throughout college, I DJ'd. Never a good DJ, but I did have the personality behind the music to drive the business. And then when I graduated, my dad said to me, "You're making more money than your first job offer, and you're not a suit and tie guy." And I had to wear a suit and tie to work for a Fortune 500 company. He's like, "Stay with the music, build it, become an entrepreneur. You got no overhead." And that was the birth of my first down, let's say, of trying to
that's an interesting story because I would say 99% of all parents would say, "What the fuck are you doing? Get a real job."
Mhm.
Right?
It's true.
And I see that all the time, and I meet successful people in this industry, like you guys and other people that always say, my parents said, what are you doing? Oh my God, I can't tell my friends that my son is a DJ. Or my friend my son does parties. It's almost like something that is like considered, that's not a real job, not a real company, no stability,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And your father actually was a visionary because he did the opposite,
Right.
which is really quite amazing.
My dad had no college education, used to work two jobs, just to make money in the early days and sleep in a movie theater in between because he couldn't go back to Brooklyn. But he basically said to me, book now, worry later. Every time I came to a question with him, Dad, I'm nervous about this. He would say, book now,
Smart.
worry later. Sales is the lifeline of every business. Without sales, everything else is bullshit. And he would just
I've been saying
drive
that
me
for
to
years.
go
Yep,
out and just knock on doors.
absolutely. Just keep on selling, keep on booking, keep bringing the money in, and then we can figure the rest out.
Book
Right.
it,
Right.
book it, and cook it.
Book it and cook it, as
Book it
Robby
and
and
cook
I
it.
use. Book it and cook
And
it.
Robby, how'd you get involved with Marc?
So I was a little lost as a younger, crazy teenager. I was a little wild, God bless my parents. My mom and dad, my dad had an accounting firm that was connected next door to another entertainment company that was, in like central South Jersey, had a little bit of a following and did all right. And, I'd always go in to see my pops. And whenever I would go to see him and help him out with some stuff at his accounting firm, the owner of that company had done my older brother's company. And actually, one of Marc's partners, who is one of the owners now, co-owner with Marc, was the owner of that company at that time. And he had another partner beneath him. And that partner was more so like the wheeler dealer, fast talker guy. And, every time I'd come in, I was like, I had a good look. I was a cute kid and I had big energy, big personality, big smile. And every time I go visit my dad, he'd come in, when are you coming to work for me? You got a great look. You're going to be great. Come work for me.
There you go. Trying to recruit you.
I took it in. When I started, I stunk. I couldn't dance or do anything to save my life. Again, I just had this warm light that attracted and gravitated people towards me. And he couldn't fire me because my dad was next door, and because my dad also spent like 40,000.
Your father all day long.
My dad also spent like 40 grand with him for my brother's older mitzvah at the Grand Marquis. So he just spent the fortune with him. So he kept me around, and I started taking away from like the top players there. What's his secret sauce? What's he doing? Why is he so successful? Why does he make the phone ring? And I incorporated all those things into my own DNA of what I did and how I, executed on site. And then that quickly became to make me the most sought after dancer, where these people book for MCs. People were calling and saying, we want Robby. I wasn't even an MC. People were like, we want Robby at our party. So then they made me an MC, and then I quickly became their most sought after MC. And then, they didn't want to lose me. So he's like, Robby, you're going to do sales. And because everybody was calling for me, I did like 600,000 my first year, not even having a clue. I never did sales. I didn't know what I was doing, but I picked up the phone. Robby, we want you. All right, let's sign. And they would book me.
That goes back from the old sales, I guess, dogma that says people buy you. They don't buy the product, and even if the service, I should say, because, product is different, but people always buy you. If there's a trust factor, if there's a factor of feel good about someone, you're going to buy from them. And the service is, your service has to be good. But at the end of the day, if you have both of those equations covered, you're going to be super successful, as you guys are.
Louis, we used to say the job is the advertisement. So get the job right. People are going to call. The job's the advertisement. Especially in our business, we get one shot in our entertainment industry.
So think about total entertainment, listen, this is an open podcast. We talk, we don't talk shit about anybody, but we talk shit about ourselves, right? So the idea is that Total has a reputation of being very expensive. Okay.
I've never heard that
And
before.
I want to tell you how I counter that, right? And this is not from me. This is from the owner of Hermes, who said that an Hermes bag is not expensive; it's costly, right?
Different way of
Total
looking
is
at it.
costly. Total is not expensive. Total is costly. So if you have the money and you want an amazing product, you work with Total Entertainment, because this
Right.
is one company that never cuts corners. Right? They're always going to give you more, more, and more, and more, and more, and more. And I've done big events with them. I've done stuff at Citi Field. I've done big parties with them. I've done corporate events with them. They never let me down. Yeah, the price is through the roof. But at the end of the day, if the client is happy with it, pays for it, it is about, getting the product you want. Doing things half-assed in a luxury market because you think you're saving that client 1,000, 5,000, or 6,000 is absolute bullshit, right? People want
Right.
what they want. They want the product they want. So yes, costly is actually a good way to be, because I'm costly as well, but I'm not expensive, because expensive is when you're paying a lot of money for shit. And unfortunately, there's a lot of copycats out there that try to compete with you. There's a lot of people that, put you in the melee of saying, yeah, we could do that. Or I can't believe Total is charging that, doing that, doing that. But at the end of the day, you're able to keep your reputation up because you don't drop that price, because you have that, you rather walk away from it. But the client always remembers what they felt like, how you made them feel, what the
Yeah.
product was,
Mhm.
but never, never remember how much it was. 5 years later, you say, how much is the total charge? He goes, I don't know, man. They were great. They
I
were great.
like that. Lewis
We just did a
costly is
We
party
like
very.
that
together,
philosophy. We like that
I like
philosophy.
that
party at the
philosophy.
country club in Connecticut. And I spoke to the client last week, and I understand they hired you to do some events for the club as well. I don't know if you even know about that, but because the company's on the big side now. But yeah, they said that we're going to use them for the club. We're going to use them for this. We're going to use them for that. They were great. And they had a choice of 3 or 4 people to choose from. I always give people a choice, but they always choose you, especially if fucking Robbie's on the call. Robbie's all over the place.
Nice.
Like,
Robbie, get that smile going, baby. I like it.
Listen,
Robbie
we don't
makes it
like to say
happen.
no. We try to
Robbie
get them,
definitely
yes,
makes
we
it
want to
happen.
make them feel comfortable, get them too excited. And, like you said, it's about cultivating and curating the experience. When they walk away, they don't think about the money. They say, wow, I never thought my party, my event would reach this height. I never thought I'd see my kid do this. I never thought that my family and friends would be so immersed in, like, this guy's got his tie wrapped around his head and he's on the MC's shoulders. Holy shit. Like, that never happens. What's
Right.
going on?
Never happened. Right. Well,
Right.
that's the idea, right? I mean, I always listen. There are certain things that it really doesn't make a difference what it costs, right?
Right.
Entertainment is definitely at the top of
Right.
that list,
Right. And we
right?
we
It's like
we
the thing.
basically sometimes, Louis, we summarize it that you're hiring us as entertainment, but if we could create that energy that's contagious, it becomes a snowball effect, and then it just goes in that upward direction. And
This
not everybody realizes in the entertainment business, there is a science to the business. There's a way to train your talent. There's a way to make them better. It's not just about hiring a third party, outsourcing things. So we spend a lot of time with our talent because we know that's the anchor of our business. We recruit them, we train them, and it really does work. We do a lot with eye contact, how to read a crowd, how to read a room, similar
engagement.
to like, and then once they become the ambassadors of the brand, it just makes it's like getting on a cruise ship. Either somebody is great and you can't forget them, everybody's high fiving you, the guy when you walk on. That's what we want to do.
It's almost like we're not
I
even
see
selling.
that. I see that. Yeah, I see that from the outside, right? Looking in, I see your dancers actually making eye contact, actually smiling,
Mhm.
like that really upscale sort of entertainment company does. They do that in bands, they do that around the country in all the high-end events. And you'll see companies that don't do that. The dancers are talking to each other, they're laughing with each other, they're really working with each other and not with the crowd, and they're really not taking that interest. Whether that interest is phony, whether interest is real, the fact that it's there, it makes a huge difference in the energy of the room.
Yep.
And I'll tell you from my
100%.
point of view, looking down, when they're like smiling at kids and they're hugging them and they're taking an actual interest in what they do, it makes a really big
Right.
difference.
Right. And we
I,
use our
I know it
dancers
sounds.
as like, you go, Robbie. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I know it sounds very advantageous, but in a sense, kind of similar. And this is an extreme example. It's not like we're selling talent. It's almost like we're selling demand, like a wait list. Like, yes, we have these people that have gone through an extensive culture of training and we don't give them the mic until they're a certain place, but we only have so many tickets on the bus for each date and they're only getting more and more busy. So it's like these people, if entertainment isn't very important to them, which most of the time for the people that we're dancing with, it is, they know they have to move quickly because there's that demand. And if you don't move quickly, you lose your seat on the bus. And it's the same way as like having, accessibility to a certain watch, or you got to move and you got to be in the, you got to, pay to play.
And if you go quick. Yep.
Yeah.
Robby, tell me a story where the party was so dead and you looked at the room, you said, what the fuck am I going to do to these people? They're all in coffins. How do you get out of it? Or tell me a good story about that. I mean, we never name clients here, but shit happens in the business,
No, listen, you get these clients that are sticks in the mud. And like, that's again, what sets us apart and what's different from us. You never take it sitting down. I've seen instances where like we had such a crazy date, or maybe there was a planner who was so married to a certain MC from maybe a past experience, or the client had heard about them. So we didn't want to lose the job, or we wanted to play ball with a certain planner because we wanted to build a relationship. And, we let that MC represent us for a day. And a specific example of that is like the kids were not eating out of the palm of his hands as they normally would be at another party. And it was a massive party. They probably spent $250,000 on this mitzvah. And, I saw him give up. He didn't know what to do. And he didn't keep figuring what the next play was. He was just like threw his hands up, where for me, I'm game planning no matter what. I'm pulling something out of my ass, whether it's, all right, we're going to play this certain song. Right now they're, busy with this, but I know this kid is into this song. And if we at least get him, we're getting 10 of his best friends that are coming out with him. And if we're not getting him, then you know what? I have like one major prize that's in the back. I'm going to hook them with this. And then I'm going to have them ride the ride with me and I'm going to get them in. Or I'm going to kill the music entirely. And I'm going to get everybody's attention because I got a microphone in my hand and I'm going to say, listen, this is the reason. One, this is why. It's like, you're a shepherd, you're leading the parade. You have all these animals in the room, they're all grazing.
Wow, look at this. He's a shepherd. I love that. You got
to grab their attention.
Moses.
People don't know what listen, part the sea, baby, let my people go. So, you gotta let them know what time it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here for this. You got invited to celebrate this person. You're apparently a good, dear friend of them. And instead of going and like, eating their shrimp over there, you'll get to the shrimp, you'll get to the bar. But right now, this is what's happening in celebration of that person. And we need you all. So
I know that's your methodology, but what can you recall like the worst experience?
I'll tell you, there was something, like there was an instance where, listen, there's equipment and things go wrong. Sometimes equipment fails. There are times where the power blew. There are times where the montage didn't go. And like, instead of being a deer in headlights, look, I went to a very prestigious acting school in New York City, Lee Strasberg's acting school for film and theater. I can tell you 2 people in my class that made it huge that are mega movie stars right now. And a lot of other famous celebrities that have gone to my school, so it's like when these things happen, you can't be like having and showing the panic on your face. I get up and I start doing, a cappella, Nathan, who's having a good time without the mic? You got to be ready to go and improv and be on your feet.
Well, I think always has to be entertaining, correct?
Yeah, Louis, it goes back to 2 things. The objective is to get the crowd to move because sometimes people judge an event by dancing. And you have to read the room. Sometimes you don't have a lively crowd. And other times the room is set up to challenge you. You're in the corner. It's a beautiful night. They have the doors open to the terrace on a country club.
Right, that happens a lot. Yep.
Right. So what we do is we try to nip those positions in advance by doing a walkthrough and looking at the floor plan. But if we're on site and everybody's outside and nobody's coming in to dance, we've done a lot of things. We've taken the stage and the DJ and physically moved it in the middle of the party and said to the client, everybody's hanging outside. Let's bring the music outside. Let's adjust to the environment.
No, I've done that too. I did an event in New York City at a place that's no longer open, unfortunately, but it was in the top of a building and everybody at the party was outside the terrace on a beautiful night overlooking New York City. And I took the guitar player from the band and I brought him outside and I brought sound outside and I had him, play Hotel California and just serenade the crowd because I'm saying, they can't hear the music. We're going to bring the music outside, but you really you just can't sit there and say, see, this is the difference, right? A lot of companies will sit there and say, well, look, they're outside.
Paid anyway. I'm getting paid.
What do you want me to do? They're outside.
Right.
And it always becomes your responsibility no matter what happens in that room.
Yes.
Right. And it's not even if something's going wrong. Mark just did that at a party I did. A good friend of mine is one of the owner of Joe's Pizza. He's a dear friend. And we did one of, his partner's parties, and it was at, Edison Ballroom. And it wasn't even that there's something was going wrong. Mark just curated an experience. And, after dinner, and we were going to, how do we raise the elevation? I don't know if this was even pre-planned by Mark or you just did it in the moment, but he literally took a stage, put it in the center of the dance floor, and then he put a drummer and a sax player right on the middle of it. And literally to start the next dance set, everybody surrounded them, and they were the focal point and the highlight, and everybody went nuts over it. People loved it, and it was awesome.
You always got to be thinking, and moving forward. Because if you're not thinking and moving forward, the party's just going to die around you.
Especially in this industry.
It's a passion. It's passion mixed with strategy. That's the science behind the business, in my eyes. But
Robby, tell me about your craziest party.
Well, I mean, some of my
craziest. For Mark also. I mean, you can.
And I don't know if this is one and the same, but listen, I've been on multiple events, but again, we sign a lot of NDAs, so I don't know when I'm allowed to or what I'm not allowed to say.
No, you're not going to talk about their names. You're just going to tell me what happened.
So there's one of my earlier parties that I came into, and this isn't an everyday type thing. I walked in, it was kind of my beginnings in total entertainment, and it was at the Barclays Center. And it was absolutely insane. They had the Nets hype team. They had roller coasters in the Barclays Center. They had fireworks in the Barclays Center. I got to introduce Pitbull, and it was absolutely insane.
A carnival ride. We had a Ferris wheel. Remember a real Ferris wheel?
They had a Ferris wheel. They had stilt walkers. They had confetti drops. They had these guys.
Yeah, as a first and probably only bar mitzvah at Barclays. I don't think they did.
And they had like, where you see the banners for like, state champ or like champions, they had the mitzvah kid's name and stuff. And like, there was celebrity there as a guest, 2 celebrities there, one that's on the news. And, they had these guys called the laser benders that were on pedestals that were doing this crazy light show, grabbing lights and like using them like spears.
Yeah, that was a great production.
When the kid was born, there was an Alan Melville song that like, a soul singer that was singing when the kid was born for the honor dance. They had the guy come up and they were dancing, to him singing. It was just one thing after the next. And like, even then, as much as that was the most amazing party, there was one thing that went wrong. I'll never forget, someone dropped the confetti or beach balls too fast. And I remember Mark the veins in his neck were coming through his skull. He was like, who dropped the fucking confetti? I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah, parachute.
That's a pretty crazy event, and it's amazing how people will spend millions of dollars on an event. And I wonder sometimes, it's like, wow, it's such a great memory, but does that, at the end of the day, does somebody try to top that one day or not top it one day, or, how it happened? That's a really cool event.
It's insane, and like my social book here at Total is, thank goodness it's been growing exceedingly through the years, but something that I want to do and really focus on, and it's been happening, I've been manifesting it, is really start to lean into hooking more corporate Louis and, getting some more stuff like that. And, I brain farted. I forgot where I was going with that, but you got
it right, Robby.
I like the idea that you said the word manifest. You do manifest. You manifest.
Oh my
things
God!
In your
if
head?
you wake up with what you have in your head, and you see it, and you can believe it, and you think you can achieve it, and you talk it into existence, and you make plays that lean to and focus your energy into it. But 100%, I believe.
But Louis, I go back to like when I said there's a science to the business, and if you read the crowd right and you do things right. So for example, a lot of band companies, a lot of DJ companies, a lot of entertainment companies will do a great job and then they never speak to the client. So our goal is always to build a relationship with the client. At that event, maybe the sister works for Twitter or X now, or maybe the brother, works for Microsoft. If you build a relationship and you open up conversations, they see you live, they love the performance. They might not do the events for Microsoft, but they might say, my girlfriend there, my friend does it. Let me recommend you. So our job has always been about relationships. Build a relationship and network, because the job is the advertisement, as I said earlier. And
it's really a really good business plan, giving away.
Right, so the social is a feeder for corporate, and the corporate is a feeder for social. If you know how to play both balls.
No, I think everything starts with the social world and then emanates everywhere else.
And you never know who's in the room. Like Mark said, you're only as good as your last game. And the one thing I will say, and I know we said we're going to stick to talent and not dive so deep into all the rabbit holes that total entertainment is, but like the best part and best asset of total entertainment, besides lending that white glove service and really from a production standpoint behind the scenes being different from other companies, I can always say yes, whether it's I need custom fabrication for a trade show, I need a Coachella stage build out, I need Jerry Seinfeld to come and do comedy, I need, you to have acrobatics that are in a martini glass doing this and that.
No, we always say yes, of course.
Yeah, I
You
mean, but
know,
the
the
ability
minute
for
you
them to be able
the
to
minute you
produce
say
it well.
something, like minute you could turn around and say, let me see if I can do that. You're
losing confidence with the client.
Let me check on that. You lose confidence in the client right away.
lose confidence in the client. Tell me a little bit about manifesting though, because so when you get up in the morning, Mark, do the same thing. You get up in the morning and you manifest shit, or you just like the day goes on, you get up, you look at your phone, have a cup of coffee, and take a shower.
I'm
Or do
very
you
organized in the morning. I'm up because of nervous energy at 5 o'clock. The night before, I always go to bed with an action item plan. And my new thing is, I have this philosophy: control the chaos before it controls you. And it's about breathing and just relaxing and just kind of control the
control the
chaos before it
chaos
controls you.
before it controls you?
And
I think
I like
it
that.
starts with you.
basically, it's just a mantra that sets the tone a little, and then you kind of like roll into the day.
And I think that that's very good. Like you have to center yourself and really like love, it sounds corny, but like love yourself. If you don't come correct for the day, it's like, you have to really be ready. Like first thing in the morning, every day, 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., I'm in the gym. It's my therapy. I'm getting myself focused. I have my action item list that I've really taken a lot of notes out of Marc's book. As far as the night before, I'm putting all my action items on the calendar of things, people I can call, things I can look up and research, people I have to follow up with, new people I can, try to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And, it's in some sense a numbers game, but I do believe it's a lot in that manifestation of you coming correct with the right energy. And,
So when you manifest, right, do you imagine yourself speaking to someone and that someone, let's say, deciding to working with you, or, give me an idea of a manifestation.
Yeah, in a sense,
and how
like
you do
there's
it.
a gentleman that, he grew up local in a town next to me. And this guy sold like, 4 companies for each one, like 100 million each. This guy's a monster. He's an animal. He sold, 2 companies to Salesforce, and the kid's out of, he's insane. He's a young guy. And, he has a small relationship with my brother, but, we work out at the same gym, and I don't really have a relationship, and the guy doesn't need money, and he doesn't owe me anything. But every day, when I'm working out, I see him and I'm in my peripheral. I'm like, I'm going to go talk this. I'm going to go see him, and we're going to have a great conversation. And I'm feeling so good right now. This is going to go in a great way. I'm not going to allow it not to. He's going to feel my energy, and he's going to be receptive to that. And, sure enough, when I go, thank you, Mark. And when I go up to him, sure enough, like he's on a phone call, but like, he's like, give me one. And then he comes back. He goes, hey, yo, what's up, man? And sure enough, me and Mark have a call with him coming up this week. And, so it's like I see it, and even there's the situation.
You got to swing. If you don't swing, so Robby took a swing.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
So right. But that again goes back
so
to
you
networking.
actually see yourself doing it, and then you make it happen in the manifestation.
And yeah, and listen, there's definitely, yes, I do, but there's also research that goes into it. Like this gentleman, I know, he's a big advocate for, he's Jewish, and he's a big advocate, a Zionist, and like, it doesn't hurt that Marc and I are going to be producing a big event for, a Jewish, company that like, I'm definitely.
Oh, you have a hook, of course. Well, you have a hook, right?
You got to find a common ground when you open up a conversation, and that's like anything.
Marc does that when he goes on a Zoom or he goes into people's houses. Marc's like his ADD is going nuts. He's seeing the newspaper that's on the desk. He's seeing that what's on their laptop, the screen that's up. He's seeing the pictures on the wall, and Marc will find that common ground. And next thing you know, it's like you said from the beginning, you're selling yourself. And then all of a sudden you guys are having a conversation where there's a great banter and you guys are laughing, and all of a sudden there's this common ground, commonality, and the product is amazing. So once you sell yourself in that regard, the product's going to do and the production's going to do what it does anyway.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you deliver, but you have to break that ice, right?
Yeah.
You have to definitely gain that trust, even minimal. I know that feels like, because we get to do some really beautiful events, and sometimes when I'm breaking ground with them and I'm just finding out about them, I try to keep my conversations really casual and fun rather than, very stoic and very professional. Yeah. Because, ultimately I'm a creative guy, so I'm not going to say, oh, we're so glad to meet you, Mrs. Richards. And, what I can do is I don't do that. I'm saying, hey, how are we going to make this happen? Tell me about your daughter. Is she cool? Does she like to do this? I say, you sound pretty cool, right? And I'll go back and forth. And if I make them laugh, if I make them, I know they're smiling at the other, I'll even tell them, I said, oh, I know you're smiling right now. Are you smiling? Am I right?
Control the conversation. You're confident. Right. Look
Right,
at everything.
confidence
It's all
coming
about.
up.
It's like
I
every
always
every
say,
meeting is like a
yeah,
speed date.
I've learned from some really, really great people in the industry over the years. I'm only as good as the people I learned from. And they always tell me, go into a meeting, any meeting, like you're worth 100 million. You have $100 million sitting there, and you don't really give a shit whether you get it or not, but you want it, and you walk in with that confidence, and that confidence is so you're like glowing, right? You're sitting there going, yeah, I can, yeah, of course I can do this, and people always buy that confidence. If you when the minute you try too hard or talk too much, you sort of like fall apart.
They can
Yep.
smell it. It's like the kids smelling your fear. If you're not like ready to entertain them in a mitzvah, they'll eat you alive, and you're not going to get anywhere with them. And like you said it, you never want to be the smartest person in the
Get
room. And
sucked
I'm
in
lucky that
quickly, Robbie.
there's
Yeah,
this
if you're the
osmosis.
if you're the smartest person in the room, you're
You're
in
in
the
the wrong
wrong
room.
room.
Right. So I'm lucky to say it's like the same thing when I go mountain biking. I ride with incredible people. That being like a COVID rider, I've gotten much better after a lot of falls and a couple concussions, but my disability policy hasn't have to kick in yet. But Mark and the crew, and they're very hungry, they're very passionate, they're very smart, and they always want to be better. So it's like, it's a gift and a pleasure and a privilege to be able to run with a team like that. Listen, don't get me wrong. Anywhere you go, there's going to be some demons, but it's incredible what they do.
Thank you.
And, it's like you said, when I go into a party in a room and I'm doing a sale, if I see the kid's a bar mitzvah boy and he's in the sports, I tell him, hey, listen, I used to train for American Ninja Warrior. But like, oh, we love that show. That's all. Or if it's a girl, I say, oh, I was on Gossip Girl a couple times. Oh, my God, and you find that mutual thing that's going to get them pumped.
Yeah, you got to turn them on. You got to turn them on, right? There's got to be an area where you have to have commonality. You have to, obviously, it changes as you get older and as you get, more sophisticated into the industry, who you're working with, who you're dealing with, right? So
Louis, Louis, on that note, as you say, as you get older, the more I drink my tea, the more my prostate is calling my name. Be back in 1 minute. 1 minute.
If I had a nickel for
It's
every
a
time
live podcast, but
I gotta pee.
yeah, no, you can go walk away for a second. It's okay. I'll talk to Robby. So, Robby, I know about that big event that you did. I know about that. And I know no event is a disaster if you guys are doing it and no one to talk about that. I've never had a disaster in an event, but I've had like really like messed up situations that I will talk about on my podcast. Sometimes, I mean, I had a situation where I lost $50,000 at a party. Somebody gave me $50,000 in cash, and I lost it. Right. I found it an hour and a half later, but I lost it, and it was a very high-end client and a very high-end party, and my face must have been ashen because I'm walking by the cocktail reception. The client grabs me. She goes, "Let's take a picture together." And you see me in the picture, like, like, what am I going to do?
You just
right?
you just lost $50,000.
But I'll tell you something. You find out who your friends are, and you find out how people love you or care about you. And I never forget telling the band leader at that time that what happened. I lost 50,000, man. And he goes, "What happened?" I go, "The guy gave it to me. I put it down. It's not there anymore." Right. And I went out to the valet guys and I said, "Did anybody leave early tonight? Does anybody leave sick? Just to, and I went to the band guy and I said to him, I said, "What do I do?" I said, "This is really messed up." Not what I do. I go, we got to make this happen. Where did you look? That you're looking for me? And he looked at me and he goes, "Don't worry about it. Nobody in the band's going to get paid tonight. We're going to give you whatever our salary is.
Get out of here.
To make up for it, because, we love you, and that kind of stuff." And I went to this other person. They go, "Don't worry about it. We'll chip in 5,000 if we have to
That's
from
incredible.
the party, from our profit, to help you out." And I'm like, I was like blown away that happened within the first 90 minutes. Right.
Insane.
And then I found it. We found it.
Where was it? Where was it?
Fell when I changed it. The packet fell into an equipment case of a jazz band that was playing, and my assistant found it. And I grabbed her, I kissed her on the lips, and I got on my knees and I said, "Thank you so much." Not that it would have, we couldn't recoup it, but it's a big loss, right? Just to lose 50,000 in cash, right? But there were situations like that. That's like a real situation that happened to me. Was it dramatic? Yes. Was it like horrific at the time? Yes. Were we able to solve it? Yes. But do you have anything as critical as that? Did you ever go into a situation where, the truck broke on the way to the event? Did you
actually, it's funny you just say that.
Last week.
Literally, I had a party last week that's for a big planner of mine. She's an amazing planner. She, she gave me Zuckerberg's sister's mitzvah. That was incredible. And, she's also a dear friend. I did her kids' mitzvahs. I did her twin sister's kids' mitzvahs. And this actually happened to be her twin sister's mitzvah for her kid, her son. And it was in Boston. And we had like 18 events this Saturday. We were absolutely blacked out. And I'm on my way to Boston, and all of a sudden my phone rings. Robby, truck stopped about at a rest stop. We're in, Connecticut. We still got 3.5 hours to go, and we're 6, 7 hours, 8 hours away from when we're supposed to be room ready. And I'm like, I'm shitting a brick. I'm like, what do I do?
Right. What do I do? What do I do?
It's a big planner of mine. AAA is not going to be there on time. We don't have any more trucks to send. And, thank God we got, a guy from a local like Penske place to come and check it out. And we actually were able to get another truck to come. But even getting the other truck to come, it would have taken too much time to unload the one truck. Load it.
We leveraged our resources. It's always good to have friends.
So what'd you do?
Well, the main first thing we did is we have friends in Boston and DC that own other companies, and you want to try to always be on good terms with people. And we said, we're never going to be set up on time. You have to bring equipment, meet us there. And when we got there, they already had a crew setting up equipment and lights and plasmas. And Robby stopped by the truck, picked some little stuff up, like to play music, like some of the playback music stuff. So everything was done. First, let's get somebody local to set up. Second, Robby will get there before the truck. And the truck came during cocktail hour, and that's how we got it.
No. So it's funny you say that, and I always tell people you're as good as your connections in this business, right?
It was a big
and
ass
you're
help.
able to have enough connections in the business to do something like that. I've had situations like that happen to me as well. But I was always able to call someone that I can rely on. Always able to call someone that I, even if I didn't know them, I said, "This is who I am. I'll do this for you one day. Could you help me out here?" Right? And it's always, it's always a yes. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. But I know that's a lot of pressure, and it's like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Right. And I think those strategic relationships, even like, we were talking about Miami, my partner Jeff he was one of the founding members of this company called Think Tank. And it's basically like a buying cooperative of DJs. But we have like 50 different companies and from Ohio to Toronto to DC to Florida. So when I do a job in Florida, if I'm on a budget, I call my Florida guy through Think Tank and I say, hey, you set up the DJ, you bring me 2 dancers, the rest I'll fly down. So it's a hybrid. And we do that quite often as we build our corporate business in other states. And we know everybody has a shared likeness because if they're part of this think tank, they buy and sell a lot of the same equipment. And it just works for us. It allows us to help clients. So we've leveraged that over the years, and that's how we've grown really.
So they joined this organization called Think Tank, which I use also in my seminars when I call them industry think tank, right? It's not a coined word, and then they all join in and they all sort of like help each other. So you basically buy equipment together.
Yeah, that's one of the initiatives. The other initiatives is learning best practices and helping each other out. And we hire guest speakers at the conferences that we put together. But I mean, think about it realistically. You want to buy video walls from China. Well, if I could get 5 companies to buy 2 each, now I got 10. My price goes down. We put it on a container. One guy takes ownership, comes to Philadelphia, let's just say, and then everybody gets somebody to pick it up. But now
it's actually a brilliant idea.
Yeah. So if I'm short on gear, this guy has the same wall, same product. I'm borrowing shit from him in Philadelphia. It kind of worked out.
It's a great concept. It's a great concept. I always thought years ago when I was in the production business, video business, we'd always end up with a hotline, right? At Saturday, my camera went down. This went down. What do I do? And we can have somebody stand by, say, we can handle it. We got you, bro. Because in this industry, and people don't, this podcast is industry, consumer, whatever it may be. It's just information. It's always going to be alive on the internet. In this industry, if you don't have that kind of connection, that kind of like love around you, that kind of reputation, you're never going to go anywhere. You're going to close. You're not going to, you can't get help from anyone. Nobody knows you. Right. And I see a lot of young planners out there, and I look at them and they'll tell me what they're doing and what they're not doing. And I see, I'm bickering now with about 25 of them on TikTok, right? That, say shit that I'm turning around and I say, what are you talking about? This is bullshit. It's like that. And they'll come back at me and I'm saying, you got to get a reality check. You don't know anyone. You're just saying stuff. It doesn't, make a difference. You can't walk into anywhere.
And I think, Louis,
we could walk anywhere in New York City and walk right in.
Another pointer is, let's say you're doing a job in Miami. okay, and you don't have any relationships, okay, because it takes time. Let's say you have to say to yourself, this is kind of like, manifesting. What are the what ifs? What if this happens? What if that happens? So if you need to do branding, hire a local guy in advance. Do your research in advance. Have one guy down there that has connections. If you need flowers, don't worry about shipping them from New York. Obviously you can't do that always, but buy flowers from a local market and say, I want to hire one of your guys to set it up with my team. So now you have tentacles. You have people on ground that you can rely on, because you can't execute properly if you don't have some on ground local contacts. So we make it our business to support the local community, not so much because we want to support the local community, but we know it's the right thing to do, and it will make our life easier because they're going to be the experts on the ground. So you can't just say we're from New York and pound your chest and say I'm going to ship everything down in a 53.
No, they don't give a shit. Of course not.
We want to give stuff to local people because they're going to be an asset to you. And I think as these wedding planners start to do things, whether it's in Jamaica, or St. Bart's, or you're doing it in, let's say, in Colorado, find local people. You have to plan it.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that, except for entertainment, that I always fly in most of the time, because entertainment scares me when I don't know who they are.
You gotta have a hybrid, just a hybrid,
right? Like I'm doing a wedding in Italy this year coming up.
Bobby and I are excited to go with you, Louis. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, let's go, baby. Take me away.
Yeah,
we already have the talent for it in Italy. Bringing it from here, but because they know the MC and the DJ company, so they wanted, and they were like, "Oh, we'll get." I said, "No, you can't hire these people from other countries and expect them to understand your crowd. You can't make them understand, the way. I'll give you a perfect example, right? And you'll understand this, right? Like photographers. You hire an Italian photographer to do a wedding in Italy for an American couple. He is going to shoot that the way he would shoot an Italian couple in Italy. He's going to, just like an American photographer is going to shoot an American couple in New York. He's going to shoot them in front of a hotel, maybe bring them to Central Park, maybe get a couple of shots on the street walking, and that's it. And then the rest of it be in the ballroom. Instead, in a couple coming from Italy to New York, they would want to get a hot dog at the hot dog stand, get into a yellow cab, shoot in Times Square, even though it's a fucking nightmare, be involved in all these things that are preemptively touristy to bring back the memory. And American photographers say, well, I'm not going to go to friggin' Times Square to shoot pictures. I'm not going to have you eat a hot dog. What's that all about? That's like stupid, right? And, like an Italian photographer will never get an American couple sitting having espresso at a cafe, like in the middle of a resort, because an Italian couple will never do that, right? So you have to understand the mentality of who you're working with, and you have to sort of be able to preempt that. And entertainment is key. They don't understand what's a banger in Europe. They could be the best DJ in France. He's never going to understand to play Bon Jovi and Springsteen at a wedding of people from New Jersey. He's never going to understand to do that. He's not even going to understand the music, right? He'll think he'll play EDM all night and everybody's going to react, right? So, making those memories is really, really important. So I always bring my talent to wherever I go, whenever I can, because that's one thing I can't manage. I want to take that off the table. I don't care what it costs. It doesn't make a difference. It's not enough money.
We love people who believe entertainment is the major ingredient, or one of the major ingredients.
Oh, amen. I just was listening to one of your other hard-boiled, and you were saying it right there, Louis. You were saying the MC on a wedding, people don't want to do it. You were like, that I won't. It needs to happen. You need it.
Oh, that is the most ridiculous thing, not having an MC. It's like insane to me. They go, we don't need an MC. We don't really want any announcements, and we're not going to do this, and we're not going to do that, and and listen. At the end of the day, weddings especially have an expectation. So if you do things that are totally out of the box, and you say, we just want the band to play music, right? And we just want to have whatever we want to do for dinner and so on. People are totally lost. You could do every strange thing in the world at a wedding, but if you don't have an MC explaining what's happening next, right, or guiding people, it's a nightmare. You can't communicate those details. It's like now a lot of people are going to me, we want, and I agree with it, they want to have a cocktail style reception. We don't want to have a main course. We don't want to have a sit-down dinner. Cool, I'm good with that, because nobody gives a fuck about the main course anyway. But at the end of the day, if people don't know what's happening and where they're sitting and what they're doing without that kind of like MC that's going to be there directing and saying, hey, we're here to have a good time tonight. We're going to do this and this and this. And, and sort of like bring energy to the room to take off the concept that goes, where do I sit? Where do I go? Where do I put my bag? What do I eat?
You're queuing it up. You're the
Right. You need a director.
You're the show caller. Director. You're the show caller in a sense.
You need a show caller, as you say, but you need direction. You need a director. You need someone to run the show, because a wedding is a show, and people cannot be confused, no matter how cool you think it is, just to walk into a room. I had a bride once that wanted to do a wedding at the Beekman, right? Listen to this one. And she goes, I just want performers in different parts of the room, like somebody doing magic, somebody playing jazz, and people then can walk around with drinks and just like, look at all the different entertainment, and maybe have a violinist. And I'm saying, okay, this is going to last 45 minutes and people are going to go fucking nuts, because they're not going to know what to do. Where do I go? Where do I sit? As in your mind's eye, this is very cool. And it sounds cool to me. I can do all of this.
Too much censor.
Right.
It can't.
Well, Louis, that's what makes you good. You're not a yes person.
There.
Taking what they
People
want.
have an expectation.
Right.
Delivering that expectation
100%.
is super important.
Right. Louis, what you're saying is, and the lesson learned for some of the future listeners of the show, is that you want to acknowledge what the client wants, but don't be a yes person. Because if you know in your heart, yes, we'll do it for the first 45 minutes, then let's build the rest of the show. You're not just yesing them, you're telling them what needs to be done to get to the finish line.
And I think you do the same thing, right? No matter how strange or
try very hard not to yes people, to just tell them.
I'm sure you've had those situations.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do something totally different, for this mitzvah, or for this wedding, or for this corporate event. We're thinking of doing this. Look, I have a client now, which you're going to work on the event with me in December, that, called us up and they go, we want to do a murder mystery for a holiday party. And that is the worst holiday party in the world, because you cannot concentrate.
Agree. You don't have a captive audience to focus on it.
This guy probably went to a murder mystery dinner with his wife someplace, in the Caribbean or something, and people had a lot of fun. Yeah, it was probably like 32 people in a room.
Right, not 200.
You have a captive audience or 8 couples that want to have fun.
200 people, a murder mystery. I went to an event last year that it was thrown in the city on a murder mystery. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. They told people to dress up like,
again, that's just
like
knowing
a detective, like a sleuth. And I'm saying, people didn't know what the hell was going on. People goes, oh, who's the murderer? I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. Nobody's even following what they're doing on the stage. Everybody was all over the place. It just
you just see a guy laying down on the floor with his tongue out. You're like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right, exactly. Oh, they shot him. Bang, bang. You look the other way and go, okay, whatever. So you have to be able to guide your clients, and I'm sure you guys do that very well. Like Robby, how do you tell the client, or Mark, how do you tell the client that has like the worst idea on the planet that it's not going to work?
I say, listen, you came to us for a reason. You got in touch with us and heard our names for a reason. And I said, I'm not doing my job efficiently or effectively if I'm not telling you that you're shooting yourself in the foot. If I'm, and I'll be, listen, I'm not going to kill it completely. I'll let you know where we can meet in the middle and still incorporate a sense of that while making it work. Because it is your party, it is your vision, and I don't want to kill your, I don't want to steal your thunder. I want you to be excited, but that ain't going to work. And in order to make it work, this is where we have to land. And if you can't,
but I really want all my guests having lightsabers, and at the same time swinging them in the air to the sound of music.
Listen, if you're okay with that completely, taking the wind out of the sails of what could be an amazing party, at the end of the day, it's your money. You're welcome to spend it, but don't say I didn't tell you so. And I'm highly advising against it.
I don't know. I don't think you're listening to me, Robby. You're not understanding what I want.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, we might not be the right fit for you.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to hear. There's a point, right? There's a breaking point, right?
You got to draw a line.
You have to turn around and say, honestly, I don't think I want this party.
And even then I might say, listen, we're not the right company, but I have, 2 guys I can put you in touch with, and this might be a little bit more their speed.
Like the lifesavers, right?
Right.
But sometimes that's the smack in the face in a good way. It smacks the client and says, hey, you're not listening to me either. Let's communicate, because this is only one small step in the process of us spending 6 months together to a year together, that we have to communicate better as a planner, as an entertainment company, as a client. And if we're breaking shit now, it's not going to be so easy going forward. So it's a right to say, like you said, let's let's try to find a happy medium.
When I get a client that I know from the second phone call we're gonna have problems, right? We're just that, not just me in general, because I'm very easygoing and I'm very amiable overall, and so is Nora. But
Nora.
Yes, you are.
I know right away. I know right away it's going to be an issue. I sort of like saying, I don't think we're a good fit for you.
I literally just had the same exact experience. I have a client that's booking at Angel Ornstein Center for the daughter's bat mitzvah, and the daughter's in the driver's seat. The daughter's like, I don't think I need entertainers, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. And I tell my planner, I say, listen, you need to drive the bus, and if you can't get your, hands on the reins with this, we might respectfully say this isn't the right one and might decline. And back to the lightsaber conversation, I might say, listen, we're not going to have a crazy lightsaber fight, but what we could do, we have these incredible greeter girls. Why don't I bring in a stormtrooper? Why don't I bring in a Chewbacca? And we'll do like a cool thing where they're in the photo station with lightsabers.
Right. You change their mind, but yeah, but you know what? It's better to walk away from a party than ruin your reputation.
Amen.
Right? It just doesn't, it's not, you can't just say yes to everyone.
And also, I think another thing, Louis, when the client's interviewing you, you could bring up those points. You could say, as a fictitious example, say, hey, I had a client the other day that we were banging heads and it was always good banging, and you could explain to them how you operate. So before they hire you, you can say, I'm not a yes person. And that's either you're going to love me or you're not going to want to work with me,
Yeah, and I actually say that, not in those terms, but I say, my job is to direct you and to guide you. That's why you're paying me. So we're going to take all your ideas and work with them as best as we can. But if I feel like you're making a mistake or going in the wrong direction, you have to understand I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to take artistic license on it because I want your party to be successful. That's why you're paying me.
License. I like that.
Artistic license is a nice big word.
All right, let's cut through some of the bullshit, Louis. When you hear the word hard boiled, what's the first thing that came to my mind? Where's my salt? I was just hard-boiled eggs. I was yelling at my mom, I need salt. I need salt. So that's what I'm always saying. So, Robby, when you hear the word hard-boiled, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, baby.
Oh, and the last question to Louis. Where did you come up with the name hard-boiled? I do like it.
I actually did come up with the name. My friend Ruth Ridgway did. Right? She's great in coming up with names.
She's the best. She's great.
And I asked her, give me a good name for my podcast. She goes, I got to think about it. How about hard-boiled? I say, I'll tell you, we'll take it. I love it.
I like it. Huevos, hard huevos, hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah, hard huevos. So, guys, listen, it was great talking to you today. I got to learn a bit about your backgrounds, a little bit more about Total Entertainment. But I'm going to say thank you guys for joining me. Mark, say goodbye.
And Shalom. Say goodbye. Hasta la vista, baby.
Everybody. We appreciate it. You're the best, Louis.
Thank you.
Louis, thank you.